Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.
I think it's aggressive but not impossible that we could do 20 million cars in 10 years.
Seriously, I can't get enough from this Berlin speech. It's relentless. But we should expand on this 20 million vehicles a year number, as it would appear to be a rather major target that Elon likes to bring up that we first heard at Battery Day. 20 million vehicles is huge. It's basically the same number of vehicles that the two current largest automakers currently produce combined. Not only that, this is not being done with a Toyota Corolla type product, a low-end, low-cost vehicle for the masses. No, Teslas still won't be at that price point. This is being done closer to a Mercedes price point, except with margins similar to Apple. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Of course, the vehicles aren't actually that expensive. When you buy a Tesla, it's like you're prepaying for gas, brakes, engine repairs, and servicing, all included in that initial price tag. Anyway, a Tesla is not nearly as expensive as most people think, and a lot more people can afford them than they realize. So although this price point may be high for some, there may be ways to mitigate that. This 20 million a year figure is somewhat synonymous with the target of holding until 2030, when Tesla's stock price is worth $10,000. You must hodl for this long if you want to get rich with Tesla. Just keep holding on long term and it will do very well, even if you lose half your investment during the dips. It's not a short-term investment. Just look at Amazon. Time in the market is what matters, right? I think we've all heard the rhetoric before. It's a safe strategy for investing to avoid all the market manipulation and volatility. In the long run, the stock will go up, but through lots of peaks and troughs on the way. However, in the long run, the market can't ignore massive profits, especially the sort of profits 20 million Teslas a year can bring. The thing is that most analysts who try and do forecasts to predict even 5 million sales a year in 10 years, let alone 10 or 20 million, they can't seem to do it without majorly adjusting the average selling price, as in they simply can't understand how Tesla may be able to sell that many cars at such high price points. But we now know the biggest selling car will not be the $25,000 compact, and it will be the Model Y, which currently costs over $60,000 in the US. There's also a very good chance these cars can hit FSD within the next few years, which will only further add to this price tag, as adoption levels increase and there is no longer any deferred revenue. However, I think Tesla would likely need to include a standard range Model Y, and perhaps a medium range too, and possibly the prices may need to come down slightly, but not to the levels that people estimate. But when you include FSD, the ASP is probably still going to be higher in the future than it is today. But it's not the car itself that's getting more expensive, it's extra services that Tesla are offering you. You can have a full-time chauffeur at a fraction of the usual cost. There is no competition coming to compete with Tesla either, in that they do not need to worry about competitive pricing. Tesla can make EVs lower cost than anyone else like for like. None of the other cars can even make a profit while sitting around Tesla's price point, and a lot of them are even getting subsidies to do this, yet they still lose money. The so-called competition will likely need to raise their prices, if anything, not cut them in order to compete with Tesla. Even if they did drop their prices below Tesla and their cars were like for like, then they couldn't handle the demand anyway, but that's simply not going to happen. The competition need to start breaking even and then try and find a profit, and then try and recoup some of their massive capex that they've got through. No one is going to be competing with Tesla on price. In other words, Tesla do not need to look at reducing prices due to competition. I mean, Tesla really are pretty much a monopoly, as in they are the only BEV company to make a profit and hit volume production. Now this 20 million number, we were initially told it would be achieved easily before 2030 on Battery Day, and then in Berlin recently we were just told it would take 10 years time. However, at Berlin we were also told that Tesla would be at more than 70 to 80% growth, which would take 20 million to more like 5 years time. If these 4680 lines are as good as we hope, then Tesla should have enough battery supply for 10 million vehicles a year, likely around 2025. If we're moving at exponential rates, then it shouldn't take as long to get to the second 10 million. And what cars will Tesla be selling to hit this 20 million vehicles a year number? Well, the chances are we might assume that by this stage, then Tesla has well and truly cracked FSD, and likely robotaxis too. So I'm happy enough to say that 10 million of these vehicles could be the Model 3 and Model Y. Granted, possibly standard range versions of both model will be out, which would have a lower selling price. But I think the majority of this demand is going to be coming from people who want to own a Tesla to add into the robotaxi network. I think the Cybertruck will have to sell in the millions, or Tesla simply wouldn't bother. It wouldn't make that much of an impact to the overall mission if they were just selling a few 100,000. Like I said, the only video I ever lost subscribers on was me suggesting the Cybertruck might not be out for some time still. There is a lot of love for this product, and so many applications. If Tesla are only making a few 100,000, then it's too many resources and not enough gain if they are selling 5 million Model Ys or so a year equivalent. I don't think Tesla would spend that much effort creating something so complex if it isn't going to result in a major impact for climate change. It's too big an opportunity cost. However, I do think there's the demand for it. But people like to tell me the F-150 is already selling almost 1 million a year. There isn't enough room in the market for a Cybertruck. Well, we'll see. F-150 owners are quite loyal though. But I used to be loyal to BMW, and now I couldn't care less about them. Tesla always absolutely dominate every single market segment they are in. Of course, the Cybertruck will be the #1 selling pickup truck too. And the semi-truck will sell really well, especially when it's autonomous. Tesla can sell as many as they can make, even if it was in the millions. They offer so much value and cost saving to anyone who needs transportation. But to hit 20 million may indeed require a lot more variety of models in the end. Teslas in every segment, perhaps a larger Model Y, a sports car, compact, and everything else in between, while still producing as many robotaxis as possible. But robotaxis may be the highest end value per vehicle, but it's not the highest value per consumer. Tesla will still make more profit from selling cars to consumers per person. Eventually robotaxis will saturate, and then Tesla can focus more on the individual consumer again, rather than the overall mission. Costs for new cars will start to come down too, as some of the older ones start to be recycled. This is a huge point to reach. We just need to get these elements out of the ground first, then once they're out, we can keep reusing them by recycling. And then what? When Tesla hits 20 million vehicles, is that it? The target is reached, and they focus on energy? I highly doubt it. Is there any reason Tesla can't get to 30 million a year? Or what about 40 million? Hang on, that's about 50% market share of new car sales. Well, possibly, but what if the majority of these cars weren't used by these new car buyers, and instead they went into the robotaxi network, each replacing 5 vehicles from the global ICE fleet? I think people are looking at the total addressable market incorrectly. They're focused on around 80 million vehicles a year, but this is a new paradigm. The actual total addressable market is 2 billion vehicles. Tesla want to replace 2 billion ICE vehicles with electric vehicles as soon as possible. It's not about market share. This is totally 3D chess again. Tesla are replacing the used car market as well as the new. And then what if Tesla hit 50 million vehicles a year? I don't think 20 million is going to be nearly enough, and to be honest, if it takes Tesla 10 years to get to 20 million, then there's very little chance that many of the competitors are coming close to catching up. At best, I would say the other EVs combined might have hit 20 million a year, excluding any cheap small battery Chinese EVs that aren't legally allowed to be sold out of China. That would mean a total production of 40 million EVs a year, but likely also still another 40 million a year ICE vehicles still being produced, or maybe even 50 million if 10 million of these Teslas aren't for new car buyers and go into the robotaxi network. But if Tesla have 100 million robotaxis by 2040 and have replaced 1/4 of the global fleet and perhaps another 400 million EVs on the road too, then we are nearly halfway through the transition. Also, bear in mind, EVs have a much longer lifespan than ICE due to these million-mile batteries. By that stage, there should have been so many battery breakthroughs and all sorts of technological breakthroughs. Don't forget, this industry is of a new paradigm of value, which is another number our brains can't comprehend. Collectively though, we are easily in the tens of trillions of dollars, if not more. My point being, there'll be so much money invested into these industries that we should see some serious innovation. Maybe cars running on just 20 or 30 kilowatt-hour batteries, able to charge fully in just a couple of minutes, with chargers everywhere you go. So many other applications and businesses that thrive as a result of autonomous driving and extremely low-cost transportation. We can only begin to imagine, but it will take a while until we hit this level, and there's a lot of work involved in getting there. But even 20 million EVs a year from Tesla is an absolutely insane number. But Tesla can't stop there. I think everyone else is too far behind to make as big an impact, especially when we're dealing with exponentials. With exponentials, getting started early makes all the difference, and no one began as early as Tesla. Therefore, I don't think there'll be anyone else soon enough to really have enough of an impact on transitioning to renewable energy fast enough. I think the lion's share will come down to Tesla. Of course, this is just vehicles. Tesla are also going to be busy trying to sort out energy too. Oh, and perhaps robots. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.